And we back, y'all. Boom, just like that. Another Black Lunch Break, y'all, in the building, man. Of course, this is October 29th, man. We are 5 days away, 5 days away from Election Day. I got Miss Mariana and Sika in the building with me. How y'all doing?
Hey, good morning. Oh, wait, it's brunch time over here. It's the Black Brunch Break over
feeling
here.
Feeling good, feeling great.
You know what I mean? Yeah, y'all probably eating parfaits and shit still right now. We over here on lunch, man. We eating sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? We got some Chick-fil-A maybe. I don't know, man, but something is happening, right? And it ain't parfaits, okay?
Listen,
look,
I tried to go get some. I tried to go get some breakfast today, and everything in Atlanta is like almost shut down. Like my block is the only block.
What's going on?
Has power. Like it's over 300,000 people are without power right now. This Hurricane
Zeta. Hurricane Zeta basically hit from Houston.
When they named Zeta, I was like, Zeta, that name itself ain't no joke. It's only so many names that start with a Z. So anytime anything that start with a Z, you already know. Like her name is Zeta, not Kada, not Jada, but Zeta. She about to mess some shit up.
Yeah, no, they had to go through a lot of alphabets, man, to get to Zeta. And the fact that Zeta is like, you know, in a minute, we just gonna have shit that's called like AA, double B, double C. We literally got a whole another goddamn month to go, right? We got a month and a few days to go before we enter. And the crazy part is, I was watching today. I just want to say this, man. Shout out to all my folks down there in New Orleans, all along the Gulf Coast, man. People out of power. My brother hit me up last night thinking. He called me. He was like, bro, you see this? I was like, see what? I didn't even know a hurricane was hitting the coast because they said that it sped up so fast, right? It literally was like the hurricane. It went from a tropical storm or a low category one into a category 2, almost category 3 within like, I think 24 hours, right? And so typically and so those are some of the worst hurricanes because typically when the hurricane hits landfall, and this is me being a low-key pseudo-meteorologist. This is me watching this guy earlier.
Did you want to be a meteorologist one day or something?
Absolutely not. You know what's crazy is I don't know one meteorologist. I know a lot of people, man, and I feel like I thought about this earlier today, and I was like, dog, I don't know one person that's a meteorologist. I mean, do y'all know meteorologists? I mean, if y'all watching out there, if y'all know meteorologists, drop your meteorologist friend in the group because there ain't that many of them, right? It's like in New Orleans right now.
See the sister? Did y'all see the sister?
Oh yeah, with the
viral with the Afro puffs, and not one Afro puff, not two Afro puffs, but the layered mohawk.
I loved it.
She was bad.
And I see some little girls are emulating that too. So I like that black girl power. Yes.
We gave her a shout out on BlackWithNoChaser, man. So shout out to that sister though. She was smooth with it. And it's funny because as soon as that happened, I don't know if it was coincidence or not. I was coming through the airport in Vegas, or maybe like leaving Vegas or whatever. And I was in Chicago. I'm lying. I was connected to Chicago. Had a sister in the airport with a similar like kind of like mohawk, you know, thing going. But hers was she took it to another level though. She actually had hers like in like a mohawk French braid type of deal or twist. It was dope. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, damn, man.
I love it when black men try to describe our hairstyles. I just love your approach to. You had to get animated and do sign language.
She had something going on that was magical. I was like, damn, that's dope. But yeah, man, look, happy to be back live with y'all again for another episode of Black Lunch Break. Today, y'all, we got
Marcus, darling.
Hey.
Oh, who we got?
Why?
But no, we got.
I posted that last week. Why that coming up?
We got Dr. Ravi Perry in the building, y'all coming. Professor at Howard University. So if y'all have never met Ravi Perry, he's a very, very, very insightful brother. He's actually running for the board of education in DC. We won't be touching on that today, but it's good to so y'all should know who's running in DC, especially for all our DC residents like myself. But that's not why he's on the show today. We're talking more about the importance of this election. Honestly, y'all, it feels like we may be beating a dead horse, but we not, right? We got to understand that there's a lot at stake.
We beating it.
It's
okay though.
We beating it. Did we beat it?
We beating it. Cirillo, you ain't got a lot of kicking. We beating the hell out that horse.
Hey, that horse. That was like, damn. I was like, God damn.
It's a fully abused, traumatized horse.
Bruh, if retrograde don't get his ass up out of here, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Yo, when is the retrograde over with though? When is it over with?
Election day.
Election day. Oh, so have y'all heard of the hood? So my lady, right, my partner in crime, my better half, right? She listens to the Hood Healer. Do y'all know who the Hood Healer is?
I've seen, but I have not been experiencing it. So, schoolers.
So the Hood Healer, I don't really know for real, because she always got headphones on, so I don't really hear much of it unless she's like, the headphones might die and I hear like a 5-minute clip because she's trying to charge her headphones and put them back in. But nah, man. So the Hood Healer is basically saying that what's happening in Philly, right? She's trying to make the not only are the people in Philly very passionate people, but she was saying that they're like she explained it to me. This is from, this would be called hearsay, right? But it's from the Hood Healer through Mara to me. And she was just saying that like, because Philly is very passionate people, but they're also very spiritual, right? There's like a very, very like a huge spiritual force that's in Philly. So everything that's happening in Philly is really kind of crazy. It's happening in this retrograde state, and the build up towards the election, she try to make it like this is like a very ominous thing for Trump, kind of sort of, right? Maybe there's some spillage over, and the fact this may give some more energy towards the Biden camp. I don't know, right? But it definitely was more of a tarot card style type of reading. So she didn't really get into the specifics of it all, but it was more like an omen or something like that. I don't know what you want to call it. Some harbinger type deal. But yeah, anyway, Seek, I see you pulling up something right now on the screen, y'all. If y'all just tuning in, man, thank y'all so much for tuning into the Black Lunch Break. Look, y'all see me with my Dim Hands University hoodie on. Y'all make sure y'all go check out our website. It's www.blackwithnochaser.myshopify.com, and go check out all our merch. We got more stuff coming soon. And also follow Talk 37 on all platforms. Yo, one of our partners we doing some amazing work with. Sika, I know you still loading up over there, sis. So
what Black women do know their accomplishments? They're gonna say the same too. Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. That's it. They ain't gonna tell you nobody else. And from my perspective, that's disrespect, because everything that we've benefited from has come off the backs of Black women.
Wow.
I can't lie, like that clip right there got me really excited about this conversation that they are having, because I think that's really dope that Black men are sitting down and making sure that they're having these heavy discussions, because it's something that the world really needs to see. So I'm really looking forward to Talk 37. Is that right? Yes.
Now when is it? Now, when is it drop?
It's dropping tomorrow. We're going to be dropping another trailer at the end of the show, but it's dropping tomorrow. I see Dr. Ravi has already joined us, so I'm about to smooth him on in real quick.
Hey, y'all. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm thrilled.
Dr. Perry.
Hey, doctor.
How are y'all today? This is the weekend, right, of all weekends.
Oh, it's my birthday? It's not my birthday yet.
Come on, Scorpios.
Man, I'm gonna keep it real with you. This weekend's gonna be nuts. It's so different though, right? You be out in the field. There have many more field workers, right? Field will be ramping up. GOT will be crazy. But this election, because of the pandemic, has been an interesting time for everybody. Right. No matter where you fall on the political spectrum, no matter where you fall just in life, right? It's been folks have been dealing with a lot, and so we just want to keep that in mind, man, as we kind of move this election cycle. And I said this before though, and giving ourselves grace, man, giving yourself some grace, understand that, look, man, everything is not going to be everything, and that and then it's okay for you to take time off, right? I think that there are probably a lot of people right now trying to figure out this in this time of rest, and they're trying to figure out if am I resting because I'm just this pandemic? Is it my time to just sit, relax, and be still? And I think that a lot of Americans right now are really trying to figure out this space of like having more time for yourself, because if that wasn't always a thing, we bogged down by 9-to-5s and these different type of obligations, and now we got more freedom to do that thing. So I will say right now is whatever that thing you've been waiting to do, that's been like staring you right in your face, go ahead and do that thing. And that's a real inspirational moment of the day. That's I'm just
Hey, I love it. I love
Oh,
how
wait,
you did
those
that.
are his Rillos. Those are your Rilloisms.
Your Brillo for the day.
Yo, no, true story. Last thing I would say. So my interns at my last job I worked for, right? I used to always come talk to them every single day. And then one of my interns, Luna live from Colorado. She says, Rillo, she would go, oh, here come Uncle Rillo with the daily Rillo. Like she come with the daily Rillo. And that became a thing in the office because I would come there and try to pour into them because I appreciate interns because we were all once in those particular seats. And I feel like pouring back into our young people is very important, at least to me. And so I used to always drop by and giving them nuggets, you know what I'm saying? And so I know Dr. Perry over there at Howard University is always dropping jewels on them Howard students, man. Shout out to the Mecca, I guess the real HU, right? Oh, HU.
Come through. Yeah. We have to show up not only, I think, for our own. Obviously, we've got one of our own in this year's contest at the presidential level, but we need to show up for our Black interests, right? I love what you were just saying, Cirillo, about, us having to take opportunity to realize that tomorrow is today. Dr. King said that in 1963. This weekend now is the time to make the change that we all are fighting for. And as John Lewis said, the late John Lewis, there are a lot of ways that we can make this change. Voting is certainly one of the, if not the most powerful tools to do so. So, I'm a both and guy. I'm someone who believes you need to be in the streets, you need to be at the polls, and you need to be in those back room policy discussions where they're still smoking cigars. You need to be in all those spaces if you really want that change that we fight for on street corners with bullhorns every day to actually become reality. Because I don't know about you, but, this has been a stressful 2020. I think for everybody, from daily onslaught of Black death that we see on our local news and our national news, and the irresponsiveness from the current federal administration to the basic needs of human life, such as at the border, where we still have thousands of brown people at the border who we know are at the border only because they're brown. Let's be clear, they were Nordic or they were something else, the floodgates will be open to them. Wall Street would be open to them. But these are folks who are struggling to even get on Main Street. And right now they're stuck in cages. These are the kinds of things that I hope people remember this weekend as we are maximizing our power today, hopefully throughout this weekend in voting.
Hell yeah, man. So I think we got a lot to get into, man. Cause I think that we've had many people we ran up on the stage today. Not today, but before you, talking about a host of issues, whether it be like women's rights, in particular Black women's rights, and what it's going to look like in terms of the justices those our sisters have been facing. But we got a Black man on the show. We had Richard Fowler yesterday with me, IG Live. We talked a lot about education, right? I know you are very, very, very passionate, obviously, about education. But before we get to all that though, right? I want people to get to know, because we got you on here for a few minutes earlier than we thought, right? And so I want to maybe people get to know Dr. Ravi Perry first, because obviously a very passionate brother. So let's go ahead and qualify the interviewee, if you will, and for a second. Also, so man, Dr. Perry, man, where you from, brother?
Born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. So I do call the Midwest my home, but my parents were the first generation. My dad was born in the North. Otherwise, my whole family side, paternal, is in Georgia, and my mom is from Little Rock, Arkansas. So, but I call Ohio the place where I was birthed, and I went to college at the University of Michigan nearby, and I've been on the East Coast basically one way or the other since 2005.
And you've been at Howard ever since then?
No, I've been at Howard actually only for the last year or so. I've worked in Virginia. I've worked in Mississippi. I've worked in Massachusetts at public schools, at private schools, at majority Black schools, at schools in rural communities and urban communities. Education is the power that we all have. It's the so-called great equalizer, but only if you don't only have access to it, but if the curriculum that you're learning is giving you the edification you need to be the most global, productive citizen you can. And so I've been blessed to work throughout the Eastern Seaboard. And I will say that my time in rural Mississippi or in the capital of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia, or in New England, and now in DC has certainly reminded me of the diversity of the Black community, We are a broad, diverse, beautiful community, but folks in New York City are not folks in Starkville, Mississippi. And, you
That's
know,
for
we need
sure.
to be able to
So
understand.
Starkville was where you were at.
Yes, where I was. Yeah. Now
Okay.
now I live in Ward 7, DC, east of the river, in a proud Mayfair Parkside community here. And it's an important opportunity, I think, for folks in DC, this election in particular, to come out and vote and support candidates all the way up and down the ballot.
For sure, man. For sure, man. You know, I just want to shout you out here. I know this is not part of the discussion, but just so y'all know, for our viewers out there, this brother is running for council at large for the Board of Education. And so, you know, if you're out there right now, you know Dr. Perry, you know, obviously, you know, there's still time to donate to the campaign. So I just want to give him a shout out really quickly for the work that he's been doing right here in DC for not only with 7 residents, but also throughout the metro area. So thank you for that, Dr. Perry.
Appreciate that. If I can for a second, I want to explain why I got in this race. You know, I study local politics. So I've written books on urban issues and how to solve problems in urban communities with little resources and with, you know, issues such as folks who don't agree with you on everything. And how do you build those coalitions necessary to get stuff done for Black people, for marginalized groups? I'm proud of being an openly gay Black candidate for office in DC, also openly HIV positive. I think it's important that we elect public officials that are honest with the public, that are willing to admit when they make mistakes, because they will each and every day, but that give people a real fair shake. I believe in the dignity of every human person. My parents were public school and public university educators their entire lives. So were their parents. And so this is a generation commitment in my family. And I got into the race because the current at-large member is currently a Trump supporter. And to be frank, that is unacceptable for me, that a majority Black school district with mostly Black teachers,
Absolutely.
by mostly Black officials, is going to allow Trumpism to infiltrate our public schools and our little Black, brown babies who are going to elementary school and going to high school and have to deal with this level of ignorance coming from their elected officials. I found that to be simply morally objectionable. So I jumped into the race. She is not running, but however, I think that what this race is still framed by is that Trumpism has infiltrated all of our lives, and certainly education. We are in a war against truth right now, and one of the number one things that is the job of public education, wherever you live, anywhere in the country, is for we to ensure that young people are armed with truth and knowledge, and then they get the critical thinking skills they need to be able to be productive citizens. And you can't do that if you don't learn ethnic studies, if you don't learn LGBTQ history, if you don't know why, for example, the Washington Redskins had a problematic name because of the thing called the Trail of Tears and 20 million Native Americans that were scalped and pushed west of the Mississippi River. You know, these kinds of histories have to be told. That Texas was once Mexico, for example. You know, we have to learn these experiences. And so I found the Trump era to be so objectionable, and to particularly to think that we have Black kids in Black districts governed by Black officials not learning Black history in an era where we have a president endorsed by the KKK. That simply to me is unacceptable. So yes, I jumped in the race.
For sure, man. And I gotta ask you though, because like you brought it up a couple of times. So like I think folks out there, especially you know, I'm gonna use Miss Mariana's term and shout out to Conscious Lee on edutainment. So on the idea of edutainment and Trumpism, though, for folks out there listening in, what is Trumpism, at least from your point of view?
From my point of view, is first of all, it's an obsession with misinformation. The Trump campaign and with the support of Russia and Iran has been documented by a bipartisan U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee report from a year ago that Black folks were the #1 targeted group in 2016 and today, as well as votes are being cast at this very moment by Russia, by the Trump campaign, with misinformation primarily filtrated through social media. filtered through social media. This is a real concern. And so misinformation is a deliberate effort to try to target Black folks with lies. And they hope that you don't know your own history. They hope that you have not read the Constitution. They hope that you don't know the issues in your community, so that you might just be duped by generalized rhetoric that is designed to speak to kind of Black concerns, but that underneath it is a thinly veiled anti-Black racism in all of the rhetoric and in the ads. And you've seen them across the country, not only for President Trump's own campaign for re-election, but for many of the down ballot GOP folks who support him. And so Trumpism to me is not only Trump himself, because Trumpism will remain even if Trump loses on Tuesday. And that is because people have drunk the Kool-Aid for years now that has resulted in the first time ever having a presidential candidate running for re-election who is at least outwardly in the 21st century stoking the flames of racism again, something that all of us on this current call have not experienced in our lifetime. My daddy's 87. He can sit down and say that there have been horrible presidents before, racist presidents before, but even he will tell you that this president tops all of them and might top all of them combined because of the bile with which not only the policies that have been targeted toward Black people, but the rhetoric thereof as well.
Yeah, I want to get in there. That's actually a really good question.
Very great question.
Kanye really being on the ballot. But I think before we get on thoughts about Kanye being on the ballot, right? I think you mentioned something when you were speaking just now about, oh goddamn, I hate when I do that. I lost my train of thought. So go back to the Kanye thing, and we're gonna come back to the thought, because I feel like there was one thing you said when you were speaking just now, and I just lost my train of thought, so I apologize for that. But thoughts on Kanye really being on the ballot. I really just I know it's more about fracturing the Black. Oh, okay, I got it. Stop it. Right, I got
the thought back.
on fracturing. We live, y'all. We are live. This ain't no ESPN, CNN. We live right now, y'all. So look,
no script,
so
baby.
on fracturing the Black vote, I think it's very important people understand about this misinformation period. Why do you believe in your history and like in your dealing with politics and history? Why do you believe that Black people are being targeted from outside forces and not any other race or ethnic group in this particular country? In this
well,
time?
It's not a belief; it's a fact. First of all, so everyone can Google it. You can go on Google right now. Type in.
No. I'm not talking about whether or not it's okay. I'm talking about like your theory around the fact that we are being targeted and our communities are being targeted by outside forces during elections. Like I should say it like that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that clarification. Yeah, so I don't know why we're being targeted, but I think we're being targeted because there are outside forces that understand that when Black folks vote in lockstep, as my daddy would say, and not half-stepping, if they vote in lockstep, then they have been very successful. We've been very successful over decades in getting the outcomes that Black communities want. And that is only been proven in those elections where we have been able to come out in mass numbers despite what polls and other things may have said. Blacks have always been very smart voters. We've always been very precise with our vote. Remember, we're the group of people who were marching across state lines to have a chance to vote for people on the ballot who at the time were racist, right? So we weren't just fighting for the right to vote for people we like. We were fighting for the right to vote. And I think the opportunity that we have right now before us is to recognize that the blood, sweat, and tears that generations before have helped us understand why it's important to participate. Hopefully we were mindful of that now. But I think the challenge here is remembering that we're always going to be a target. And so what I'm excited about right now at Howard is that I'm part of a team called Digital Informers. You can Google that as well. We have a website at Howard University, a cross-college disciplinary team of scholars that won a $250,000 grant from the Knight Foundation to to study Black misinformation here in Washington, D.C., to figure out how our D.C. Black residents been targeted and how can we help them notice those targets so that they don't get duped by them, because we're going to always be targeted. We're going to always be victims of voter suppression in a system that's based on power. And so the challenge is not just trying to eradicate it, which is, of course, goal number one, but it's also right now trying to figure out how do we win even with it right now. And we can, because we've already done it before. There's been voter suppression, remember, since we were first allowed to vote, the Black men were in 1870. And so with the passage of the 15th Amendment. So it's nothing new for Black folks. We beat it before, and we better beat it again on Tuesday.
So before we get to the Kanye question, right? Because I think you got a wealth of knowledge, bro. You sharing with people right now.
Yes.
So I hope that people that are watching right now really understand like what we are receiving, right? And so like I got asked last night, hey man, like if Trump wins on Tuesday, like what happens, right? But I do think that's a very valid question, right? There are a lot of things happening in the swing states and Rust Belt. We're talking about, we talk about the Wisconsin, the Michigan, the Pennsylvania, right? The Ohio, Iowa, Florida, right? All these battleground states that we are really up for grabs right now. Even talking about Texas now being a true battleground state, Georgia being a battleground state. And so there's a lot in the air right now that really can swing either way. What it is do you believe that Biden needs to do to really bring this thing home for Democrats? Or is it anything he can do at a particular moment right now, or voters are really just locked in step, if you will, using your pop's term, locked in step on who they're going to be voting for at this moment?
So if we believe polls, and to the extent that they made mistakes in 2016, as a political scientist, I will say polls are generally accurate, but they're always based on prior behavior. And here's why we should take it with a grain of salt this time, because we had never had a COVID election before. And so we have millions of people who have cast early ballots. Millions of them are African Americans across the 50 states and here in the District of Columbia that far outpaced what we were doing in 2016. We should be very proud of that, but that is not enough, and we have to continue to come out in full force. So even in places where we've seen that rapid shift in turnout from 2016 to today among Black voters already that have cast ballots pre-Tuesday, of course, we've seen that those numbers have, yes, gone up and have gone up vis-a-vis 2016, but that's still based on what's expected. Only about a third of people have actually voted. So we're expecting about 2/3 of the country still to come out between today and Tuesday. And so that means that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I think, have a short window of opportunity to really center their message. Remember 4 years ago, what happened in the weekend for the election? The Comey news came out that, of course, got in a lot of people's faces. And something that I think that was under the nose of a lot of African Americans is that the Crusader newspaper, the official paper of the KKK, came out and endorsed Donald Trump that weekend as well. And between the grabbing by the which was a couple days prior, the Comey news and the KKK news, some of us were certainly hopeful that Black folks had everything they needed last time. But what we see now certainly is years of evidence. And so I think what Biden and Kamala need to do is remind people of what Trump has done. I don't think we folks need to be convinced really to vote for Biden and Kamala to believe that they're better. Most folks already know. The polls suggest that people pretty much are fully aware that you have one president that is currently in office that people do not view as very much as having the skill of empathy. And then you have a presidential, challenger, former Vice President Biden and Senator Harris from California, of course, great HU grad, and who are arguing a different position in some ways based on just empathy and listening and human connection alone. And so I would encourage Biden and Harris this weekend to spend time reminding Black voters what Trump has done to us. And then, of course, yes, segue to, well, what are y'all going to do? And some of the things they've already articulated. First of all, healthcare access is critical in Black communities. And you've got the current president who just got a Supreme Court nominee confirmed who has made it very clear that she does not only questions the legitimacy of the 14th Amendment and basic citizenship of Black people, but she questions the legitimacy of the Affordable Care Act, which has helped Black folks and people with pre-existing conditions like myself and those who are otherwise abled get health care for the first time in ways that they did not have it before. So we can pivot to health care. We should pivot, of course, to criminal justice because that's a key issue in African-American communities always. And I think the story there is simple, is that you have the option of Biden and Harris, who have, of course, been working to create more humane policies and legislation as relates to the criminal justice system for their entire careers. And you have someone else in our current president who still thinks the DNA exonerated Central Park 5 should still be murdered by the state. So, I mean, take your pick.
I mean,
that's a lot. Gosh.
I
mean, it's barely any room for us to even ask you any questions because you have so much knowledge on everything. Like most of your responses is leading into the next questions that we're having, but we're thankful that you have this type of knowledge because these are the type of people that we need in these type of positions to make these type of moves. Because we do have too many underqualified people in these positions harming our society for so many generations. And what are we going to do about this? We're going to do exactly what you're doing. You're getting out there, you're figuring out what moves you have to make, and you're making the moves for us. And we appreciate that. We really do. And us at Black with No Chaser feel honored to even have this conversation with you because the knowledge is just, whoa, it's a wealth of it. So thank you for running down a lot of things because I didn't know plenty of what you just shared with us.
Well, I bless my parents. I always thank my parents, lifelong educators. You know, when you have parents as teachers, you know, every comma out of place, every sentence, the one-liner was unacceptable in our house. And so God bless my mom and dad, Bob and LaRuth Perry, both PhDs in their own right, both members of the silent generation, holding it down for young folks like us, well before we were even thought of. That has allowed this type of conversation that we have today and that y'all have all the time on Black with No Chaser to exist. I think we forget to honor that generation of folks that came, that were of age in the 50s and 60s and making the waves that allow us now to stay afloat. And so God bless them.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And I appreciate you like, you know, honoring your parents. I know for me, like my dad, you know, God rest his soul, man, but my dad was born around the same time as your pops. You know, my dad, if he was still living, would have been, I think 84 now. 84. And I know I can always feel like, you know what I mean? Cause you grow up in a household with a parent like that, like it's a different kind of energy. You know what I mean? Even if older Black men don't say much. Like my dad wasn't a big talker. But that energy, right? Because when they spoke, he was like, "Oh, he's speaking, y'all. Everybody, like, hold on, y'all. Everybody, chill out for a sec." But no, I really want to. I want to dig in that a bit more. I think it's interesting, man. We never really talk about a lot about folks' parents on here, but clearly, like, your parents have been instrumental in your life and in the way in which you move. Obviously, you're educated now. You followed the PhD route. But tell us about your folks real quick, man. I want to hear about moms and about pops for a second. How's moms?
So mom was born in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1943. She devoted her life as an educator, was a public school teacher in grade school, but primarily in high school, teaching English literature from the 60s all the way up through the early 2000s. Also ended her professional career as a visiting professor of Africana Studies at the University of Toledo, where me and her both co-authored my last book together. My last book was on the Little Rock crisis, which was an extension of her dissertation when she got her PhD late in life in 1998, after a full career as a mother of 3 children and a full-time mom. She was doing a PhD program throughout the 90s as well, while teaching in public schools and part-time teaching in community colleges across the Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan region. And so she got a PhD late in life on her hometown siblings and friends who are all active in the quest to integrate Central High School in 1957. She was of age then and was one of the 100 or so folks who was in fact invited originally to integrate Central High School, but like many Black families at the time, was encouraged by her parents, who in fact was not allowed by her parents to in fact become one of the Little Rock Nine, because folks were of course afraid of their jobs. My grandfather just at the time was working with Walgreens and was the United States postman, and doing that type of integration politics work in Little Rock, Arkansas in the 1950s was a risk not only of your life, but of your economic employment. So my mom and her sisters and brother were unable to participate, though they made the mark. And so my last book on Little Rock Crisis is a story on how that still matters for folks today. And that we know the number one reason why Black folks still vote is because they associate the power of the vote with the civil rights story that they learned from somewhere, from somebody that shows them that this is how we make our voices heard the most. Through a March story, through a King story, through a Rosa Parks story, or maybe through the Little Rock Nine story. And so that's my mom. She now has Alzheimer's. I think it's important to emphasize this, particularly on BlackWithNoChaser. Black folks, Black women in particular, have a high rate of Alzheimer's and dementia. We need to be talking about this throughout Black communities. One thing that I'm excited about with the Biden-Harris ticket is that they have talked about how to take care of geriatric concerns. And as the youngest of my family, who with my brother and sister, we of course pray every day for our elderly family members and principally our parents and my mom's sisters who are all afflicted with Alzheimer's. My dad, God bless him, is mentally firm and a former professor of Black and Ethnic Studies. He founded the Department of Ethnic Studies at Bowling Green State University. And it was one of the reasons why ethnic studies is a core aspect of my platform and my campaign to mandate that here in DC public schools, because it works. And we know that when students take culturally relevant curriculum, they graduate on time, they're more likely to be ready for college or post-secondary career options if they want them. And so my dad was a huge inspiration to me. He was a sociologist and department chair, expert on race and crime, was 50 years old when I was born. So, hey, it's never too late in life. And for someone who wants kids, who's 38 right now, that's an inspiration for me too.
That's really dope. That really is. Your mom is a legend. Your father's a legend. It seems like the whole Perry family is a legend. The comments over here are just heavy with support, and I love it. I love it. It's beautiful to see Black families be able to support each other year after year, decade after decade, and that is a testament to exactly what type of individual you are. You are standing on some shoulders of some legends, obviously, and that's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah,
I've been blessed.
For sure. Myron, I don't know if you want to jump in there, but I was gonna do a quick follow-up. I think it's important. I remember in 2016, right, healthcare was on the ballot, 18 healthcare was on the ballot, again, healthcare is on the ballot now in 2020. I worked on healthcare very intimately in that time period, so I know all too well how SCOTUS has affected it, good, bad, or indifferent, from the gutting of the actual individual mandate that allowed really the Obamacare Affordable Care Act to kind of like do its thing. But right now it's very, very important to understand the latest appointment in one Justice Barrett now sits on the Supreme Court. They have a 6-3 conservative bench. So many issues going to be before the court. The first issue before the court, as soon as November 3rd, almost a week and a half after, is on the Affordable Care Act. So I really want to jump into it really quickly. I know you talked about the importance of Black folks really understanding that the Biden-Harris ticket has a plan in place to ensure that all Americans, including Black Americans, have access to affordable health care, even if this particular fallout happens and the entire ACA is gutted. But I want to touch on that for a second with you and some of the particulars around, what is this going to mean for Black folks dealing with healthcare issues, or just, healthy folks in general.
So this is why the Kanye mess is a mess, because we cannot afford to have any votes taken away from the possibility of every single American having not only access to affordable care, but access actual care. As someone who's HIV positive, I don't want access to an infectious disease doctor. I want that actual doctor to take care of me. And we need to make sure that we are not supporting candidacies that don't have plans to protect Black life. It needs to be very clear and simple about that. To me, I have no problem being a proud Biden-Harris supporter because this is an election that's not just about policy. It's not a typical left and right Democrat Republican election. This is an election about my life. And if I am someone who has an openly gay man who may want to get married again, my first marriage was the first same-sex marriage between two men covered in Jet magazine. I understand the significance of providing opportunity or representation in the Black community, the diverse experiences that make up Blackness. But with this new appointment in the Supreme Court, that may not happen for a whole bunch of LGBTQ folks who are waiting to have just a shot at the so-called American dream. And healthcare is the first and the last battle for all of us. My daddy always tells me, you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I ran track throughout all of my young youth and for a while, for a second, also at the University of Michigan, where I went to college. And what I have learned through those lessons is that if your body is not mentally and spiritually and physically well, you can't be your best for other people. And so that's why it's so important when we go to the polls this weekend or today, if you're going to the polls, all the way up until, of course, the close of polls on Tuesday, please take with you your Black interest in mind. Don't take just your congruent beliefs. If we only fight it for that which we believed in, only fight it for those people who agreed with us, then it would take us far longer to get where we need to be as people. We need to be fighting for those folks and those issues that ultimately have Black interests in mind. So I encourage folks to never limit your activisms, and it should be activisms plural, because hopefully you have your feet wet and your hands dirty and a whole bunch of good trouble, as John Lewis would say. But we should never be limiting those activisms to the news cycle, because this is a life and death election for a lot of people who are Black and have other intersectional identities that make up their beautiful Blackness. And if we allow candidacies that are distractions and don't have plans or have been proven to be harmful to Black communities to get any of our Black votes, then who do we have to blame if those folks win and we don't get what we need? You would think that we've learned this. Frankly, again, I have said from the beginning that we shouldn't be in this position to begin with, because most Black folks should have been able to understand when a KKK endorsed president is running, that's probably not the candidate that you need to vote for, and that whoever the other person is, whether you like them or not, probably is in your best interest. We did not do the best job with that in certain circles, in certain Midwestern communities where I'm from, in places like Milwaukee and in Detroit last year. I want to emphasize Black women have been, are now, and likely will be the continuing backbone of protecting Black interests through the cycle of the Democratic Party. They have been holding it down. We all should be bowing down to them, but also standing up with them and helping them get to the polls. And we, those of us who are Black men, we got to do better with our sexism, with our homophobia, and with our lack of understanding that if we don't stand up with these Black women and we link our interests and our attitudes together, we don't have time for the fissures within our Black community when we need to be united if we want to. And then after you win, and politics is about winning, after you win, then we can have those discussions. But if you don't win first, then you can't get on the agenda. If you're not on the agenda, then those issues simply won't be solved.
So I wanted to chime in terms of, I'm hearing a lot about focus on candidates or the candidate that doesn't really advocate for, groups of people that really need to vote in droves, right? But I'm really curious on how you weigh in on the Black celebrities who we've had conversations about that. You know, it's really easy to put attention on Kanye. Kanye's pretty good at getting attention no matter what's going on. I actually had some kind of cognitive dissonance when I did my vote. I didn't even see his name. So I think I was tripping, because that's how far fetched he is in terms of like being somebody who has political experience.
Yeah.
And I do feel like a lot of the times when it's time for folks looking for that Black vote, they align with, you know, the magic Negroes, the magic Black folks that have the most, you know, influence over our community, but not any longevity on really actively investing. And so, you know, before, you know, I'm kind of curious on how you weigh in. We've talked about Ice Cube. We talked about P. Diddy. We talked about these personas that put themselves in position and align with Black community voters by way of influence and popularity contests, right? And so I recently saw, I guess Ice Cube, I guess Biden and Harris had actually scheduled to have a phone call, and it finally has come up with Ice Cube. And so originally he kind of put it out there like, hey, I'm trying to sit down with any candidate who's willing to have a discussion. And now that we're kind of evolving on, I don't know how true it is, but it's being discovered that that phone conversation was blown off, right? And so for me, that was kind of like, that's why we got to be really careful with putting people in positions of leadership and influence, because there's actually going to be some Black folks out there that didn't hear anything that was said about the negotiation. They're going to go off of, okay, that means I need to vote for Trump because he endorses this list, right? And so I just want you to weigh in as somebody who's taken to a race, someone who has the education, someone who has the history that really displays, you know, amplifying advocacy for us. How does that feel when you see, or how do you weigh in when you see folks that are jumping in on celebrity, putting on the vote or die 2-3 more weeks before gaining these votes, and then you're out there 24/7 doing this work and advocating for our real needs, not the popularity? I want to know how it makes you feel.
Great question.
We've heard a lot about what you think. I want to know about your heart. How does that make you feel?
Oh gosh. I'm in divinity school now at Howard, I should say. I'm getting a master's of divinity degree, trying to finally listen to God a little bit more. And so the fielding question really hits home with me, because this is our lives that we're talking about. And I take that very seriously. This is not a political talking point. This is not a job. This is not about some personal career goals for me. I am living my best life. I am working at the Mecca. I am living exactly where I want to live and where I've always wanted to. And I have the opportunity to stand up to serve. And that feeling is a powerful one that then is hurt by the constant time that we have to spend, many of us in the kind of public intellectual space, fighting against these more celebrity entertainment characters that have tens of millions of followers, and have a level of influence that can create disillusionment. And to me, as someone who, you know, politics is about power. And so because I love Black people, because I am Black, that's all I've ever been. I was Black before I was a political scientist. And that is important to emphasize, I think, because we forget that about the humanity of people. And what I understand from that experience is that if we don't take politics seriously, and it's really frustrating when, you know, we're in the thick of a community debate about an issue that we're trying to solve to get more rights for more people, and we're having to fight our own, right? It's one thing, right, to have to fight a clear opposition in a vested special interest, or in some cases in a clear racial opposition or clear anti-LGBTQ opposition, what have you. But to have those same intra-Black community fights, to me, it all goes back to public education in a way, because what it says is that what I have to believe as an educator is that ignorance is not a bad thing. Ignorance is not a pejorative to me. You know, call me about politics. Do not call me about engineering or chemistry. I can't help you with that. I can tell you who
exactly
the call for that, but I can't help you with that. And I'm fine with my ignorance. We are all ignorant of most things, and so we're all going to die being ignorant of most things. I think it's important that we understand that, and so I try to encourage a lifetime love of learning, because it does break my heart when I see people, sometimes my own family, in the last election cycle, some of my own best friends who are smart people with advanced degrees, etc., voted for Jill Stein. And I was so hurt that I was unsuccessful at being able to convince some of my own family and friends about how to protect your own Black interests. I'm like, look, I know what you believe. I know what you want. We talk about this all the time, and yet you're voting for someone who, one, has no chance of winning, and B, even if they did win, does not have the experience that these other folks have to get done what you claim that you want done. And so healing is so important. I really appreciate that question, because I think that if we focus on how we feel, it really isn't difficult, I think, to cast a ballot for someone who has your best interest at heart. But it hurts when, and I'll end with this, when you have folks like Kanye and Ice Cube and Terry Crews, who, by the way, where they are, how I have in common, again, they're men. You do have Candace Owens of the world, who is, catastrophic in her misinformation. But you also have the public intellectuals that have made mistakes. Brother Cornel West, love this man to death. But he, was part of the chorus along with my frat brother, scholar Mark Lamont Hill, who supported candidates that I would argue did not help the overall outcome of advancing Black interests in the short term. And I think we need to be honest about our mistakes and hug each other anyway, of course, with appropriate social distancing in mind, and realize that every day is a new day. As a Christian, I'm not interested in what you did yesterday. I'm interested in what you do today and what we can build together to do tomorrow.
Appreciate that, man. I was happy, man. Appreciate you.
Ask that because I think it's really important that, we use our emotional intelligence. And I think in politics, of course, being emotionally reactionary is one thing, but using our emotional intelligence is directly hinged into our empathy and the compassion that we have for disenfranchised and marginalized community members. And I think when we move forward with more Black male leadership, more Black women leadership, we have to really culturally understand that politics is about being representation and being voice, but it is out of having a feeling that it makes us motivated to want to do better and do right by our communities. And so we talk about what, people in politics think. I'm big on that heart chakra and understanding that we can bring our heart to our work and lead with the goodness in our heart, with the critical thinking and alignment, in divine alignment with the work that needs to be done. So thank you for answering that. And thank you for bringing your heart to your work and your passion to your work in ways that in many circumstances, we're told that that's not professional. And that's most of the time, in my opinion, why politicians are doing a lot of heartless, soulless work. And if we're going to be Black people in positions of power, we got to bring the soul like we bring it to our food, our music, our communities, and everything else. So thank you for bearing your soul in the work that we do. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you for acknowledging that. I mean, again, I have to bless my parents. I was in Massachusetts, the first openly gay Black person, head of the NAACP chapter. When I was in Mississippi, I helped work with folks in Starkville who were city employees to get health insurance for everyone in their family, including their same-sex spouse. I have fought on the front lines of expanding pay for women. And as a lifelong member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, I'm now leading the effort to get that congregation of tens of thousands of members here in the United States and across the world to remove a page from its rule book that says that its pastors can't marry same-sex couples. or even attend the ceremony. We just saw this week the Pope came out in support of civil unions. It's time that Black communities of various faiths, traditions embrace the entirety of God's human community. And young folks are simply not tolerating intolerance now. And I think we should be leaning on their passion, both in terms of Black Lives Matter and of course in terms of climate change and so many other issues that they're leading on. It's always been young people, and I have been inspired by the young people that I teach every day at Howard and that I've taught elsewhere. That when you bare your soul, when you are your genuine self, that people may not always appreciate you, but God bless them anyhow. But that's the only way you can really give of yourself in service to other people. Because if I'm not fully content and how God made me and who I am, then I certainly cannot be the best servant for all of everyone else. And all I can hope and pray for is that with each day that I'm given, that I do a little bit more good in this world for those who need it.
Word. So that kind of almost segues right into like the last question, right? Because many people, right, be like, oh, well, when you elect these people, right? You know, Andrew Gillum was on air the other day with Bakari Sellers and Angela Rye talking about, look, when you actually vote, right, and that person is elected, that's just your foot in the door, right? So I want to talk about accountability because I feel like you was kind of alluding to that a little bit in your last kind of like 2 sentences. And I think that like for folks out there, like how are some ways, regardless of who ends up winning this election, but in particular though, right, Biden Harris a lot riding this campaign, many people across this country, 71 million plus people now have casted their ballots, record numbers for early voting. And so in terms of accountability though, right, in 2 minutes, because we got 2 minutes, right, 2 minutes, how can we hold an administration, in particular the Biden administration, accountable, especially in the terms of Black America?
So I think we need to give them an agenda. Well, the mistake that the Black community had with the Obama administration, we never gave them an agenda until their second term. And that we was a traditional group of Black mainstream organizations that did not include folks like, let's say, the Trans Woman Collective. And so we have to do a better job of including everybody in the so-called development of a Black agenda. And that needs to principally begin with, as my colleague, Dr. Kathy Cohen, a provost at University of Chicago, wrote in her early work on Black queer studies, it needs to be targeted toward the quote unquote punks, bulldaggers, and welfare queens. If we build a Black politics, a Black political agenda that begins with the so-called least among us, at least as some perceive us to be, if we begin with the person and the wholeness and fullness of who they are, and center, of course, their Blackness in our development of an agenda that is for us, and then we should be able to give that. Let's make a goal that we all do that in our individual communities right now, where we reside with the community organizations near us, and that we combine our resources. That by this next Black History Month, and when Biden and Harris is the new administration in control, that we know that as the Black community, we've given them a Black agenda, and that Black agenda better be inclusive of every single kind of Black person that there is. Otherwise, we're going to have the same types of fights we've been having. So the short answer is build the agenda in your neighborhoods and your community orgs. Send that agenda via social media and via professional networks such as your representatives to the Biden and Harris administration, because of course many of us are knocking on wood and praying as hard as we can that for the protection of Black interests, it is the Biden-Harris ticket that we need to be considering on Tuesday.
Y'all mute.
I'm sorry. Real quick before you go to the video, Seek, just Dr. Perry, tell folks how to get in touch with you, man. We gotta run really quickly before we show this 2-minute video.
Okay, my website, a personal website, is RaviPerry.com. My campaign website, RaviPerry4DC.com. I'm on Twitter at Ravi Perry, and on Instagram and Facebook as well. God bless everybody. Please do vote, and remember to not limit your activism to the news cycle.
Appreciate that, brother.
Thank you so
Until next
much
time, man. Easy, man. Keep on doing what you do.
God bless y'all. Thank you.
Yep.
Can y'all give me a second? Can y'all give me a second? Yo, answer my question. Do you think that she was murdered, or you think that it was just some fluke thing? That first off, they didn't have a warrant. Second off, they don't have a warrant to come in this home, so they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Period. Regardless of what happened, who shot who had what. The gentleman that fired at the police will do what any of us in this room would do. Somebody kicking your door, you shoot. Period. Regardless of who it is. They never said they were the police.
I told you I was going to answer. What's your question?
Do you think she was murdered, or do you think it was off a fluke? They kicked in some unknown door and somebody fired at them because they didn't know who they was, so they shot at them. The police shot back and accidentally killed her.
One thing that you cannot neglect is what the facts are, right? Taking all the emotion, all those things out of it. So let's just put that out front from the outset, as opposed to, I'm just asking him this question. I'm just asking because
let's sift through all this. I honestly want to know your opinion. Do you think that was murder? Do you think?
Yeah. I'll hey, just 1 second, because he opened up the question. He opened up the topic saying Breonna Taylor was murdered. And we've got another 7, 8 brothers in the room who may feel one way or the other, but he opened up with the question, right? Letting us know his stance, right? And I haven't said whether I feel like she was murdered or not. I didn't say it. I didn't say that.
No question.
The black woman is never given the benefit of the doubt. She didn't have a gun. She was sleeping in her house. And so even if they shot back, she didn't have a gun. And so I think what happens in this conversation is, because I've gotten that question before. We don't have all the facts. But the reality is, all the facts weren't even presented to the grand jury.
Yeah, I think with the Breonna Taylor scenario, from me, my perspective, for all black men, it should be a layup that you should be enraged that a black woman asleep in her bed was shot and killed and murdered.
So we're trying to define a murder through a broken justice system. And so for me, I can't classify, I can't look at the broken justice system as the means to define what actually happened. So for me, it was 100% murder. 100%, there's no question in my mind, because how is this broken system going to tell me what we already know, what the facts are from what we know? She was in her room, she was in her own home, not a threat. They were there looking for something for what were they there for? So in my opinion, there's no gray area for me. It is, the system is broken, and they are hiding behind that to say that, therefore, technically it's not murder, and really it is.
No, that's talk 37.
Talk 37. Yes. That is so dope.
Talk 37, y'all. Look, man, look, y'all make sure y'all go actually check that out on YouTube, man. The full episode is dropping tomorrow, y'all. We'll be dropping it on our networks as well. So y'all make sure y'all stay locked in there. Shout out to our very own Marcus Knight, man, holding it down on the West Coast for us with BlackWithNoChaser in the building. If y'all don't have y'all merch yet, get your merch. Dim Hands University on sale right now, as well as the hoodie y'all saw in that video. So shout out to Secret. Thank you, sister, for everything you do in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. But anyway, y'all, episode 12, Dr. Ravi Perry, man. Secret, what you think? Last thoughts before we roll out of here.
Yo, it was a great episode. I got a lot of knowledge today. That brother is filled with it. So, I mean, I'm glad that he schooled us a little bit today, and we got a lot of information that we probably were missing throughout all these other conversations that we've had. So we appreciate him for following through BlackWithNoChaser, the lunch break, and breaking bread with us.
For sure. Look, y'all, like we do every single time, man. This is the Black Lunch Break, brought to you by BlackWithNoChaser, on BlackWithNoChaser, on the Black Lunch Break, on every other network, all in your face, right? And this is BlackWithNoChaser for real, though. When we think black,
we live black, unapologetically.
We out. Day, y'all. We out.